I'm here to do the Love Actually tag. This is by G.K. Reads. Grace, I love her so much, and she created an original tag that I adore. So let's get into it. So Love Actually is one of my very favorite Christmas movies. I watch it every single year, sometimes twice a year, because it's just that good. Favorite storyline? Debatable between the Prime Minister and also the Prime Minister's sister, who has that terrible thing happen to her where she finds out that her husband just isn't a good guy. And oh my God, I bawl my eyes out every single year watching that storyline. Okay, let's dive into the questions. I love this tag. One of the best tags I've ever seen. So number one, if I'm looking down a lot, it's because my laptop is down there. So that's what's happening there. Question number one, Christmas octopus. Which is such an awkward moment in the best of ways. What book has the best twist, most unexpected book you've read this year? This is pretty easy for me, and it's something that I read earlier in the year. It's The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. Oh my goodness. This is a short little book, but it packs a punch. And this follows a young boy who is Black, and he is essentially taken and put into a school. It's considered a reformatory school, but it's really just a hell on earth. And he's taken there for nothing that he's done wrong. He has done nothing wrong. Elwood is such a little dream of a boy. If I had a son and he was anything like Elwood, I would be very proud of myself, okay? So, he's taken and put into this school and meets all sorts of atrocities there. There's a lot of abuse there. And as the book went on, there's a twist in there that I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I cried. It was so good. So amazing, for sure. Number two, I actually look quite pretty. What's the prettiest book cover of books you've read this year? This one's always a little harder, but I was so drawn to the cover of The Familiars by Stacey Halls. Like, just take a good look at that. There is something about a blue cover, I must say. I am most attracted to black and white covers of like a photo, and then also blue covers do it for me. Foiling also helps, but there's something about this one. It's just so stunning. The illustrations, the little fox, all of the beautiful flowers. This book is about two women. One of them, does it take place? Yeah, it takes place in the 1600s in England. One of the women is pregnant, but she's had multiple miscarriages in her past. And she has found out that her doctor believes that she might not survive this pregnancy. She won't survive it, or the baby won't survive it. So she reaches out to a midwife to try and help her along. And this midwife absolutely agrees. She's like, don't worry, I've got you. We'll make sure that you're safe and the baby's safe. And then this woman is accused of witchcraft. And it's about these two women and their friendships. I really enjoyed it. The cover, though, oh my gosh, just stunning. Question number three. I hate Uncle Jamie. What's the most disappointing book you've read this year? This is probably my favorite question. Not that I want to talk about this book too much because it really did make me so sad, but it's Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. I was most disappointed by this book because I was so excited to read this book. Like, Paul Tremblay, up until this point, I would say was my favorite horror author And then after reading this and his short story collection that I had to DNF, now I can't say that he's my favorite anymore. I love him still, but this just didn't work for me. This is about a pandemic that essentially turns people into zombies, and we follow a pregnant woman and her doctor friend trying to get this pregnant woman to safety because she has been bitten. And the question is, how long will it take effect before this like disease or whatever it is takes effect? Will it affect the baby? I just found it really disappointing. I wasn't scared at all. I also wasn't scared for the pregnant woman at all, and she didn't really seem to care about her child at all, what might happen to her child. I just found it exceedingly frustrating. So that was a big fat disappointment for me. Number 4, would we call her chubby? What book do you think gets a bad rep? And I think Grace also used this book for this answer, or question I should say, and it's Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. I loved this book. It did get a ton of hype and a ton of attention, and I think some people just didn't like how it's written. This follows a woman who is a nanny named Mira, and she is Black, and she is taking care of these white kids. One day her boss, the woman she's nannying for, Alex, calls her at night and says, I need you to come and take my child out of the house. Something's happened. Can you please just take the child and like go to a supermarket or something for just like an hour? I need her out of the house for an hour. And so she does, and she takes this kid, and a security guard confronts Amira and says that Amira is actually trying to kidnap the child. So she has repeatedly throughout this book deals with racism. Well, there's this one moment in time that's super racist, but there's so much more in that in here. It's very easy to read, but it, I think, had a much deeper meaning of it was much deeper in the sense that this shows you what not to do as a white person, like repeatedly. I thought it was fantastic. But a lot of people just felt kind of meh about it, and I don't know why. Like, this will most likely be in my top 10 books I've read this year. I loved it. So yeah, Such a Fun Age. I'm really glad I read that. Okay, question number 5. You've made the life I feel foolish. That whole storyline, as I said before, made me bawl my eyes out. Speaking of bawling my eyes out, what book made you the most emotional this year? You can't read Hamnet and Judith without crying. I don't think it's possible. But the hard thing is, well, some people, like Simon, read this and cried throughout the whole thing. I cried at the very end, but then I couldn't stop crying to the point where I was like, I'm really glad I'm alone right now because I just got so emotional. This essentially follows Shakespeare, and we follow Shakespeare's wife, Agnes, and their 2 twins. They're twins, Hamnet and Judith, and Hamnet dies. You know that from the beginning. And you watch the events leading up to his death and the events after his death. And it is so devastating how this family grieves this child is so devastating. I just bawled my eyes out. I will say, I started listening to this on audio and wasn't connecting with the book whatsoever. Moved over to physical form, everything was fine. Read this in physical form, please. I beg of you, please do. Okay, question number 6. Bott-le. what's the best book in translation you've read this year? And I realized that I haven't read a ton of books in translation this year, which is kind of disappointing of me. I'm like disappointed in myself. But I mean, I loved this book so much. It's The Chestnut Man by Soren Svestrup. This is, oh my goodness, a crime book about a serial killer who poses these little chestnut men beside the corpses, and it is brutal. Like, so the scenes of the people dying in this book is brutal. So it follows this serial killer. It also follows detectives trying to find the serial killer. A fingerprint is found on one of the chestnut men left behind, and the fingerprint actually matches the fingerprint of a woman or girl who's gone missing a year before. Everyone thought this girl was dead. Is she dead? Yes? No? You have to read it to find out. But I thought it was so much fun. Oh my gosh. And it's going to be a Netflix TV show soon, so I can't wait for that. Okay, and last question. Question number 7. All I want for Christmas is you and you and you. What are 3 books on your wish list, your Christmas list this year? So I assumed wish list. Maybe she meant like what you're actually reading for Christmas this year. Anyway, this is my wish list, so I'm going with it. So 3 of them. I have many, so actually a rather long list. But first is Run by Ann Patchett. I read The Dutch House by Ann Patchett this year. Fell, oh my gosh, so completely in love with Ann Patchett's writing. Next is a nonfiction book called The Stranger Beside Me. This is like very well known. It's by Anne Rule, and it's about her relationship with Ted Bundy. Like, she knew him. He was a co-worker of hers. And after writing this book, she, I think, proceeded to write a ton of true crime books. But I'd like to start with this one. And then next is Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. Okay, so now I'm going to tag some people for this. Lauren from Lauren and the Books is currently doing Vlogmas, and I adore Lauren. She is so funny. I just watched her one on like testing out mince pies with David, and it's just, she's just the cutest and just the most joyful person on BookTube. I just think she is. Next is Jen Campbell. I feel like she would have a lot of fun doing this as well, and I love Jen. And then finally, I would like to tag Ashley from the Bookish Realm. Ashley is also doing Vlogmas this year, which is lovely, and every single video that she does for Vlogmas has the theme of like a Christmas song, and then the theme of the video kind of works with the song. It's very smart. So I want to tag those wonderful women, and I hope that you guys enjoy this. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.